Hello, do you know you can run a custom version of Meteor in production? So we are going to see how to change a package from the core. We are also going to see how to change some code in Meteor that's not part of a package. That's kind of a different kind of code that sometimes you need to change. And also you're going to understand how you can do this if you want to run this custom version in production. Of course, that's not recommended, but in some cases you need to do that. And then to wrap up, I'm also going to say how I do that in a way that I'm not stuck to this custom version. So the recommendation is to also send a pull request if you are changed, if you want to have this change go into the core, so you don't need to run the custom version forever. Okay, as you can see in this log here, you can check that I'm getting an error. Then I'm scrolling here, then I see like these programs is already like the code that's running my code. So it's called boot.js. So let's try to understand where this is coming from the Meteor. And just to give you a context, like I'm running this project, Code for the Win, with Meteor 3. And then I was getting this error this weekend. So let's open this file in Meteor. So I'm going to the Meteor project here. And just to be clear, I am in the release 3.0 branch, as you can see here. Okay. Now, if you go to this line here, where the error was happening, you can see there is something related with source maps. So I tried to first work around a little bit. I tried to put some try-catch around, but it was not working. And in the end, I was not trying to see if everything was okay, including sourcing maps. I was just trying to run my project with Meteor 3. Then, as I was not able to identify the error, as you can see here, the error is inside the source map library. So I decided to just like disable the source map. So before I talk about my change, that is not the important part of this video, you need to understand that Meteor in the source code has a few parts. So where this code is coming from? So if you go to GitHub, so go here, Meteor/Meteor, and then you can see that that is the code that I'm running, but I'm running with this branch here. That is the branch for Meteor 3. So in this branch, if you go to tools, and then you are going to see this file here, it's inside tools, static assets server. So tools, static assets server. So this is the code that I saw in my stack trace from the error. So it was the boot.js. So this is basically the first code that Meteor is going to run after you build, and then you start to run in the server. So that's basically running with Node.js. So that is the part that I am interested. But check here that I am inside tools. So I'm not inside a package because Meteor packages, they are here. So that's the first part that I want to talk in this video. So if you are changing a part of the code of Meteor core that is inside a packages folder, you don't need to do what I'm going to do in this video. For packages, it's much simpler. For packages, for example, let's say you want to make a change in the accounts to factor, you just clone this code, copy this folder, accounts to FA, create a folder inside your project. So let's suppose we want to do that. I'm going to create inside Code for the Win. I'm going to create this folder. In this case, I already have a packages folder, and I'm going to copy the content inside here. So Meteor always try to find first the package inside the packages folder. What is important is the package name that is inside here. So if I copy that one from accounts to factor, it's going to find first in my local folder. After that, Meteor is going to try to find the folder indicated in an envvar called Meteor package gears. And then later, it's going to try to find from atmosphere if it's a core package or not. Actually, it's on troposphere, but doesn't matter. So these steps are important for you to understand because if you copy a core package to inside your packages folder, that's enough for you to override the Meteor core code for this specific package. But what was my problem here is my problem is that this source map code that was producing the error is inside this boot.js. And this boot.js is a file that's copied from the Meteor source code, not the package, to my project, and then we'll run it. So it's impossible to change it, changing a package, because this code is not from a package. So what you do in this case, you can run Meteor from your local checkout. So here is my local checkout. That's the name that Meteor uses, but it's basically like my local branch. And I have something that's configured for my Meteor. You can use any alias. I'm using ZSH here. So my Meteor is pointing to this folder. So when I run my Meteor, I get this folder. If I run Meteor, I get my global Meteor installed. So this simple way, you can run any Meteor from a local package. So now, if I go to my project here, and if I run like my Meteor, or any name that I want to provide to my alias, or I can even put like this folder here. I can just run like this, so it's easier to follow. So Meteor from this folder, then I can check the version. So in this case, why Meteor is building, it's because I probably changed the branch before I start recording. So Meteor identified that the versions that I have for these packages here from the NPM dependencies are not exactly the same. So Meteor is recomputing the NPM dependency. And now you can see Meteor and say, okay, you're running from a local checkout. So this checkout is not released. So Meteor is warning you or telling you that that's not a released version. If I go in the same folder and if I just do this, then I will see the version that is in my project. That is the same version that's going to be here in the release file. So I'm overriding the version that I'm running with the version that I have in my local folder. So that's a very simple way and very effective to replace all the core packages are going to come from my local folder and not from the released version. Okay, so now you know how to run this. And if you're thinking, oh, but that's just because Philippe set up a lot of stuff. No, it's not hard to do that. You just clone this repository and then you run. The first time it's going to install a few things. You're going to see this in a moment. And then, but it's going to do everything automatically. Why it does everything automatically? Because there is some code here that is checking if you are, this is just the internal code of Meteor, just for curiosity. It's not important for you to learn how to run, but Meteor is going to say, okay, I am inside a Git folder, so I am a Meteor from a checkout. I'm not a Meteor from a binary. So it's going to prepare the dev bundle to you. Dev bundle is a bunch of dependencies that Meteor bundle, so you can run in development. So it's going to run automatically. You don't need to do anything. But now, okay, I know how to override a package. I know how to run from my local folder, so I can change any file, including the boot.js. But if I want to run the server, so I'm going to show you a workaround that I'm using to run on zCloud. There are many ways to do that, but I think this way, it's a very simple way. And you don't need to run this in zCloud. You can run like this anywhere. So what I'm doing, I create this script that's called download my Meteor. So it's a very silly script. I'm using the GitHub API, but as Meteor is a public repository, I don't need to provide any key. So it's just the public API. And I'm using like my organization, my repo, and the branch, because you remember that my issue was with source map, and I don't want to run source map. So what I did here in this branch, let me go to this branch. I create an env for me to be able to disable the source map code. So I extract the code to a function, and inside this function, I am doing whatever Meteor was doing before, but now if I have this env, if I don't have, I run it. If I have, I just put a log message saying that I'm disabling source map. So my intention was to just disable this to make sure all the other parts are working. And then of course, later we can go back and fix this problem. But at least I don't need to stop my progress with this source map problem. So now I can use this API, like it's just a GitHub API for you to download a specific branch. So this way is also very good because Meteor is a huge repository with many years of history. So I don't want that. I just want this specific branch, and it could be a tag as well. So that's the way that you build this URL. So I'm using cur to download this to this output file. And then I'm going to move this file to a specific location, because later you're going to see that I'm going to use this location in my Docker file. And this is just a little tricky, And that's why I told you that Meteor is going to identify if you are a Git or not, because this code that I showed you from Meteor checking if I'm in a Git, it's a very silly code. It's just checking if there is a .git file. So I'm pretending that I am a Git repository by just doing this. Because if I don't do this, Meteor is not going to detect that I am inside a local checkout, and it's not going to install the dependency. So you're going to get an error like, oh, Node is not here, because it's not going to find the Node.js. So this way, we just put an empty file in the .git location. So Meteor is going, oh, okay, it's from a local folder. So it's going to set up everything that is necessary. So when I run this with Docker. Again, I'm running inside zCloud, but doesn't matter. You can run this anywhere. So here I'm going to give the permission to run this script, and then I'm going to call download my version. I'm just using this to avoid cache when I want to do a change from my Docker layers. And the other parts are in the public repository with like the Meteor instructions to run in zCloud, but it's not important. I'm just like set up in Meteor this way. And then before I was doing npm install, build with Meteor, just like this. But now I don't want to use the Meteor from this image that I just installed here. I want to use the Meteor that I just downloaded here. So I'm using my Meteor folder. So that's the important part. You need to download to a place where you know what is the name, for example here. And then you need to use from this location because the Meteor is from a local folder. You could also create the alias here, but I don't want to create something very complex. So this way, now I'm going to build using my local folder. And what this build process is going to do, a lot of steps, but one of the steps is going to copy my boot file, and my boot file has my change. So now if I look to my logs here, let me go back to zCloud. So I'm back to the same place. And then I have a lot of logs here because the app is running. But I probably can find here maybe the time where it was starting. I think Meteor is logging as if it was an error, the Node.js. Let me see if I can find here. Yeah, so you can see here, it's red because Meteor or Node.js is logging as an error, but it's not an error. And then you can see that my Meteor application is starting and it's running now with the disabled behavior. So it's going to skip the step of producing the source map. So as you can see, there are many lines here, but I don't have this problem anymore. And I can even try to find my message here, because here I'm just logging errors and this is not an error. So can you see? Now this part is loading. This was just because there was an old container running, but if I filter by my current container, I'm not going to find the error about the source map. This error is just like some errors that I probably need to fix. Can you see? For example, this error, maybe it's because I'm using this map async without awaiting, so I need to double check these errors, but that's not the topic of this video. But can you see here? Now my code is running in this version. Why? Because on zCloud, I am configuring to use my Docker file instead of the default one. So it's going to read from my file. My Docker file has these settings that is using my other script here to download Meteor. So now it's running from any change that I am putting here. It's going to be applied in my environment. So that's a very direct way and lightweight because it's going to be fast because I don't have other things running here. I just download the specific branch that I need. And if I also check my build logs, I still probably can find the place where it was installed the dependencies. Let me see here. This is the final part. This is the other part here. So what these logs are showing is exactly the step that is installing everything. Let me go back here. So here, can you see now I'm using my Meteor? So you can see here that was running from my local. You can also see it downloading like the Meteor/Meteor in the branch that I want. And then after that, it's going to install the dependencies. Why? Because I put a fake .git, so I don't need to download all the Git files, but I can simulate that I am inside the Git file, and then everything is going to be installed, and then finally my code is going to run with this custom Meteor installation. So, but as I said, like this should be a pull request. So later, of course, we are going to discuss this with the Meteor core team. But if I want to suggest that Meteor has a way to run without this source map, I can go here from the branch that I started. And then I can go here for my disable source maps branch. And I can send a pull request. If you're having a different fork, you can just compare across forks here. So this way, I can keep my Meteor version aligned with the main version, because people, if I'm reasonable and I explain why I need this change, people can accept my pull request. And then I can get back to the Meteor default version later, and I don't need to run my custom version forever. So that's the important part. Always try to contribute back to the community with your changes, because probably the problem that we are suffering is also affecting others. So for example, this problem, I know there are other people suffering with it. That's why I'm recording this video. So if you want to try Meteor 3, but you are getting this error with source maps, you can use this branch, and you can use the exact same code as I showed you to just download this branch and then deploy. If you're using zCloud, you can deploy in zCloud, exactly as I did. If you are deploying in another place, you can just customize your Docker file, and then you're going to be able to override. If you are deploying to Galaxy, for example, you run the Meteor build locally. So you can also do like my Meteor and just run deploy. So it's going to build with your local Meteor, and then it's going to send to Galaxy the bundle already with the boot.js copied from it. And don't forget, you don't need to do that if you are changing a core package. If you are changing a core package, just get the package code and copy to your local folder. So for local packages, it's much simpler. You don't need to do what I did here. It was because it was a boot.js change. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoy. I hope you learned something, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Have you heard about zCloud? Cloud shouldn't be hard, but today is really hard. zCloud is a very easy solution, and with support with real human beings that know what they're doing. They know everything about DevOps and also development. So they can help you even with code issues, so you can go live without any problems. We also help with migrations. So if you want to have like better results and to focus on profitability for your company, check our website, zcloud.ws, and schedule a demo or watch the recorded demo.